What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 41 of the Half Price Concessions podcast featuring Grayson Eaton of South Boston Speedway. Before we get to Grayson, we want to say a big thank you to all of you for your support of this podcast. Whether you listen on a podcast app, you listen on our YouTube page, or on our website, we appreciate you doing so sincerely. Special thanks goes out as well to our partners at North Carolina 811 Dig that reminds you to call 811 before you dig anything, and our longtime supporters at Performance Center Racing Warehouse in Statesville, North Carolina. Also, if you have any suggestions for future episodes or people you want us to interview, just drop us an email. The address is halfpricedconcessionspodcast@gmail.com. If you've seen any social media postings from South Boston Speedway in the last year, you've seen some of the work by our guest today, Mr. Grayson Eaton. The 21-year-old social media manager for South Boston Speedway has also dabbled in pit road reporting and race announcing, and took some time out of his day to chat with us about his love for racing, his career goals in the world of motorsports, and our shared connection through Averett University in Danville, Virginia. So sit back and relax. Episode 41 of the Half Price Concessions podcast with Grayson Eaton is coming up on the other side of this break.
When you're eating breakfast, you don't think twice about hitting an electric line in your cereal. If you're looking through your dresser, does damaging a fiber optic line cross your mind? Of course not, because those utilities are buried underground. So don't think twice about calling 811 before digging. 811 is a free service, takes as little as 5 minutes, protects you and your neighborhood, and it's the law. So call or click 811 today. This safety message brought to you by North Carolina 811.
This episode of the Half Price Concessions podcast is brought to you with support from Performance Center Racing Warehouse. In addition to being the home of the PRW chassis, Performance Center offers in-house setups and consulting, plus suspension and chassis pull-down analysis, along with their fabrication shop that can reclip your race car with the fastest turnaround in the industry. Give Roger Johnson and the Performance Center team the chance to earn your racing business by calling them today at 704-838-1400 or visit them online at performancecenter.com. That's PERFORMANCENTER.com. Here on the Half Price Concessions podcast, and Grayson Eaton joins us. Grayson, nice to finally meet you. I've seen you on social media, a lot on social media, on South Boston's and your own, and through some mutual friends and stuff. But before we get into anything, how's life been treating you during these unprecedented times?
Yeah, Tyler. Well, thanks for having me. First off, it's been tough. You know, I'm going to be a rising senior at Averett University this coming fall, and been out of the loop as far as education since early March. So that's definitely been tough, trying to keep myself in the educational loop of things, and then trying my best to keep our social media up at South Boston Speedway as well during these unprecedented times. It seems like every time we get something going, we just keep getting knocked back down, but hopefully we'll get back up and we'll stay up here.
Yeah, I'm about to say, you're the social media coordinator at South Boston Speedway, which I think it depends on what age you are as to whether you understand how much work that actually is. I think probably an older person might look at that and say, oh, okay, that just means you're on your phone a little bit, but
for sure,
you can lend some detail to just how detailed it really is nowadays, because you've got so many bases you got to cover. It's not just a website like it was in the 90s.
Oh, it's a ton. And I think I saw something on Twitter earlier, and it said that social media managers, they're the most underpaid people in the business, because a lot of people don't know how much work goes into it, but I'm here to tell you that tons and tons of work goes into it, because you're dealing with the public, you're having to create content, you're posting. I mean, it's a ton that goes into it. You know, I mean, you're basically, nowadays in the present time with how technology is, you're basically the spokesperson for your company or your business, and that's with everything. That's not just in motorsports, but in motorsports it's highlighted tremendously, because we have motorsports has gone tremendously towards the digital side recently with things.
Yeah, about, you know, and it seems like one of the main things it seems like you have to do is to really have a theme, because anybody can post a Facebook Live video or some 10-second video on Twitter and not post any context to it, but you know, you have to really keep it on a theme. Plus, you have to deal with complainers. I don't think social media managers get enough credit. How much complaining do you have to deal with on the South Boston side of things?
A lot, especially since we haven't been racing, which is a good thing. That's actually a really good thing. So keep those complaints coming, because it does make us feel good when you're complaining that we're not racing, because you obviously enjoy coming to our racetrack, and we appreciate that a lot. But you know, any fans that are listening to this, you know, we're trying our best to get going, but we have so many walls we have to get through. We have to get through the NASCAR walls. We have to get through the government officials here in the state of Virginia. We have to get through our local officials, the police department. We have a lot of things to get past. It's not just like we can open the gates up and say, come on in and crank the race cars up. It's not that easy. And to give some depth into, I've heard some people say, well, why not race without fans? Well, we can't do that. We're not on NBC Sports Network every week. We're not on Fox Sports every week. We don't get that income. Our income comes from you, the fans, and the drivers and teams. That's our source of income, and it just wouldn't be a sufficient amount to open with just our teams as drivers, as much as we love them and as much as we want to hold races. We just can't do that. It's not feasible for a local track, and I'm sure that goes along with many other tracks. And I know some in Virginia have opened, like Langley Speedway and Dominion Raceway have opened, but folks have got to understand, it all depends on backing, you know.
Yeah, your local municipality really matters.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And you know, they're in a good economic region as well. So
I was about to say, before we get too much into your past, just how hard has it been to just come up with any kind of content in these times? I mean, have you scraped the bottom of the barrel with the teaspoon? Well, how many times have you had to do that just to put something out there?
I tell you, I have been scraping the bottom of the barrel here recently, since we canceled not canceled. We're not canceling. I didn't say that. We will be having our 2020 season at some point, I can promise you guys. But since we got delayed this last time, I feel like my whole world has just crashed down, because I've planned and I've been promoting and trying to get our season underway, and now that you know is kind of up in the air, you know, it's not really much to talk about. You know, I'm scraping stuff out of the woodwork, so to speak, and I feel like I've gone through probably 1 billion photos in the since March, since the pandemic started, trying to dig up stuff and do stuff that people will like. I actually started doing some Instagram lives, which are currently under repair, so to speak, as the last one was pretty not good at all. I had a lot of technical issues, so trying to come up with something new as far as that goes. But I just always keep in mind of what I would like to see on social media and what I may like to see during this time from people that I follow in NASCAR or other racetracks and stuff like that. It's mainly what I've been keeping in mind when I go look for content or what I'm thinking about when I'm posting.
Yeah. So with all this work that you do, how did you even come to racing in the first place? Where did you kind of get that first itch to even be aware of, oh man, this is the sport I like?
Yeah, so I've been in love with racing since I was 2 years old. NASCAR. It started off as NASCAR, and I've been an avid NASCAR fan all of my life. Now that I've kind of gotten into the business side of it, you know, that's changed a little bit, which I still love the sport, but you know, it's a different look and aspect on things from being a fan and working in it, you know. And then I would say about 9 or 10 years ago, I started falling in love with IndyCar. NASCAR and IndyCar are my two most favorite motorsports ever. And then it became F1. I started watching F1. F1's a close second. I really love F1 too. And then sports cars. I just love motorsports in general. You know, I grew up, my family, I have people in my family that has actually raced. My great aunt was actually the first woman to win at South Boston Speedway.
Really?
She was. Yeah, but that kind of I know several other people have tried to take that title, but I know that for a fact. I actually have the newspapers for that, and I've told my management the same thing. And we've talked about actually recognizing her at the racetrack before. And relatives of mine race also. I'm kin to Nathan Cruz, who's a Budweiser Pure Stock driver at South Boston Speedway. Distant kin there. But racing's in my blood for sure. I mean, I just love it. I mean, I watched it on TV. I mean, I never miss a practice of qualifying or anything. Of course, we don't have practice in qualifying now.
Yeah.
But, I always have it set to record on my television. I hit it if I miss a practice or something like that because I'm busy. I always go back and watch it.
I'm glad to hear you've evolved as years have gone on, because I remember myself as a kid, I was a big NASCAR fan because I like you, I had family in it.
Yeah.
But then I also had at a local short track. I went to a speedway, and that was all I had. But then as you get older, and like you said, you start to discover other things like IndyCar, Formula One, and for me, it's been dirt racing. But there's just, now that you get a little older, and I mean, you're 21, so I mean, you're not that old yet. But I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, how as you get older, you start realizing, holy crap, there's a lot of racing out here to pick from.
It is. And
especially now VIR, because you do stuff at VIR.
Yeah, I
too.
do. I've done some stuff at VIR, and I've worked with sports cars over there. I worked with Blancpain GT, and it's actually, it's killing me that I can't go out this weekend because that's when their race is over there, and it's going to be the first one. But no media can attend the track right now, attend any series basically. And I've been in constant talks with the people over at the Blancpain GT series about doing some things with them in the future. I've got some other plans too that I'm working on. But I just love racing altogether, all the way around.
You've been an intern at both South Boston Speedway and at VIR, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Blancpain.
Just while they're both racing, speak a little bit to just how different that environment is. Because I think people on the outside would probably be like, racing's racing.
No.
You can speak to it. How different is that environment?
Oh, it's a ton different. I mean, you can go to South Boston Speedway, you have your pure American-born drivers there, just pure American. And you go to VIR, and it's a lot more diversity, which is a good thing. And you just see so much culture, and you just gain so much respect for these different drivers. And the thing that fascinates me the most, like I know a few drivers in Blancpain GT, and you look at their past, like one is from the Netherlands, one is from like England, Denmark. I mean, you look and you'd want to dig into the story and like, how did you get to racing in this country? Because I know how people get into it here in the United States of America, but like, how do you? And it's really interesting to hear their stories, and then other differences include like the way they go about things, like how they practice, how they qualify, like they run multiple classes of cars on track at the same time.
If you did that at South Boston, you'd cause a fight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you would, because NASCAR, late model cars, they go at high speeds, and then you have your little pure stock cars. They're basically like road cars out there. You're just burning the accelerators, the best way you can, but they're quite a bit off the pace at a short oval. But you also have drastic speeds too on the road courses, but that's a little bit more room to maneuver. And then they're sports cars. Those cars are built for that, and NASCAR not so much.
I've always told guys that I've seen at Ace and other tracks that I've worked at that, a lot of racers complain about how much you have to pay to play. And in the back of my mind, I'm always like, you need to go to VIR or Road America and see how much they pay to play, because it's a lot more.
Yeah, you go, oh yes, definitely. And I actually did 2 weekends back to back. I was with Blancpain GT working with them one weekend, and it was last April. The next weekend I was at South Boston Speedway. It was a culture shock. I mean, being with this place one weekend and then going here the next weekend, I mean, you're like, wow, this is different. Which, I mean, I knew it, of course, but having it back to back like that, you really see the drastic difference between the two.
Yeah, I know last year you got to do a little bit on the announcing side at South Boston, which catches my eye because I've been doing it for 10 years.
Right.
So how did you end up? Was that kind of where you wanted to go?
That's still
place?
the goal.
Okay.
That's still the goal. That's part of the reason why I've been doing my Instagram live sessions. If anyone's out there, I need assistance in this area, because I know it's a hard area to get into. And I've been trained at Aver, and I've taken broadcasting programs. I know that how to do that, but I just need help getting to that level, you know, being able to do that, you know, like what I'm doing now as a social media manager, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm good. I know Jacqueline Drake really well with the Cars Tour. Her sister-in-law is Caitlin Vinci. So, you know, I love Jacqueline, and I try to make, you know, people like that my friends. You know, I try to make everyone my friends, because you know, you never know. Yeah, I'm networking, you know. So I'm just trying to do that, and, you know, see what comes up, you know. And I'm keeping my options open, you know. I've got permission from Kathy, you know, I'm not just, you know, I'm 100% committed to my job at South Boston Speedway, but I can also go out here and do something else. So that's one thing I love about my job. You know, I can experience other things, and I can go out here and do other stuff rather than just being, you know, under contract to a certain place. But, you know, broadcasting is the goal, and I did last season for South Boston, I did 7 out of the 14 races. I was the pit reporter for those for WHLF FM in South Boston, and they've got a pretty good range, and I was on iHeartRadio and loved every second of it. I mean, just loved it, and I ended up doing PA for just about the other races with John Evans up there, who is our PA announcer at the track, and then I actually filled in for Ken Childs once, who basically like the pit reporter in the infield as our PA announcer at South Boston Speedway as well. And I just love it. I mean, I'm a people's person. I love interacting with others. So, and what social media allows me to do that too. But that's just more of what I'm comfortable with, you know, talking to people and hearing the stories firsthand. And then I like the camera too, if I must say. I like being in front of the camera.
Hey, that's okay. And not everybody is. A lot of people are shy about it. So, I mean, at least you're honest about being comfortable with it.
Yeah, I am. You know, I just love people. So that's definitely the path I want to get into. And I had, and it still may be an opportunity. We had talked about getting NBC Sports Gold at our track in South Boston, and that was going to be my position. You know, Kathy had told me, you know, that I want you to do it. And so I said, oh yeah, that's an amazing opportunity. I would love to do that, like 100%. But of course, you know, with the pandemic and everything going on, that's kind of, you know, been pushed to the side a little bit. But still, you know, still looking. If you have a race series, or you have a track that needs somebody to do PA, or would like me to come fill in, I would totally be open to it. And I'm not looking for money. I'm just looking for experience.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna have to bring you to a dirt track sometime.
No, I would love to.
You come hang out with me, because and you can testify to this. As far as, like you said, if you want to hear people's stories and learn people's stories, and no two people at the racetrack are the same, there's probably no sport better at it than racing. Because like you see at South Boston, you might see a guy in a 4-cylinder class, he has this story, and then you see a guy like a Jeb Burton or whoever in the late model series that comes from a totally different background, and you get them all in one place. And also you get the wide age range as well, which I'm sure you've seen as well. This is not just a group of 20 to 40 year olds. You got a pretty wide range.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of young drivers. And see, me personally, I represent, I you know, gel with them better than I do the older ones. I gel with all of them, but like I can relate.
You speak their language, yeah.
I speak their language, exactly. And I'm friends with a lot of our young drivers at the track, and I mean, it's just great to see. And I know I'm young, but I think the youth movement in NASCAR and other motorsports series, I think that's crucial, you know, because it's a lot of years ahead of us, you know, for us to produce the talent. You know, we're driven, you know, we want it. Like, I know I want it just as bad as they do, and I try to help them. You know, I know what my goals are, so I try to help them achieve their goals. And what I'm doing with social media, like, I want to give everyone the best promotions I can. I've even told drivers, I'll go out and find you a sponsor if I have to. Hey. You know, I want the best for the people that I'm working with, because I know the dream that they want, like I want mine.
Yeah. So, if there was a dream job out there, I'm envisioning in my head for you something at like MRN or something like that. Would that kind of be like the dream come true job?
Definitely. The dream come true job would be pit reporting for MRN or PRN radio, or pit reporting for Fox Sports or NBC Sports Network. But even, I mean, I want it so bad. it would be a dream to pit report for the cars too, or anything like that. I mean, that's just how much I love it, you know.
I'm about to say, it's a good thing you're skinny, because as you know, with pit reporting, you got to run.
Oh, wow.
And at
yeah,
this level,
definitely.
you ain't got no producer down there. No, you got to go find the story and go report on it your darn self. You don't have a runner.
But see, I love that though. I love going and digging up a good story. Like, I love it. I mean, I just love everything about it, you know. Yeah. And I'm actually, I have my own microphone and everything. I'm gonna do some digital reports for our racetrack at South Boston throughout the practice day and even throughout the race when we have red flags and stuff. I'm going to go around and talk to drivers, and I'm going to put those interviews up on our social media, and then also I'm going to do some stuff with the fans when we have the opportunity to do that, and the people can come back into our racetrack. I'm going to go out and talk to some of them as well, you know, and make them feel as important as they are to us, you know, because sometimes I feel like the fans, they kind of, I love the fans. Everyone loves the fans in NASCAR, but I think the fans sometimes feel kind of left out of certain things, and it shouldn't be like that at all, because they're why we're here. I mean, when we say that, that's the truth. I mean, we can prove it at our racetrack. That's why we're not having races. Our fans are why we're operating and racing each and every weekend.
Yeah. So do you actually get any time to go to races just as a fan, or do you kind of have to keep it as the workload goes?
Nowadays, I keep it, you know, it's, like I said, it's a divide. So everyone in the business knows you really, when you work in it, you can't be a fan of someone, even though I'm sitting here fanning over somebody. I know, like, this person that I really respect is, I'll just say his name, Parker Kligerman. Yeah. He liked one of my tweets a while back when I worked with Truex Management Group and Burton Kligerman Esports on the Grand National Tour event, and NBC Sports as well. Work with them, and that was so cool to me. Like, you know, that was so cool to me to be able to interact with those people and those kinds of people in the business, and for that, you know, for him to like my tweet, that meant a lot, you know. Yeah.
Another connection that we have is Averett University, which we're meeting in Danville for this interview. I'm class of 12, so you were probably still in elementary school when I graduated. But tell me about what life's been like at Averett University for you, because you're going into your senior year. Of course, you're trying to graduate in the middle of a pandemic, but tell me a little bit about your experience at Averett and what that's been like.
Well, first off, I'm hoping the pandemic will come to an end soon, or social distancing or whatever that's going on right now. I hope that will be over by May of 2021. Prayerfully, that will be over. But I love my university. Dr. Tiffany Franks and Joe and the whole crew over there, they are just amazing people. I mean, I just feel such a part of the family, and you know, they have always pushed me to do my best and everything. They made me a presidential ambassador, which I don't take lightly at all. I want to represent my university in the best way possible everywhere I go, and I want to open up opportunities for them.
What comes with that? Does that mean you give tours, or is that something else?
Well, I actually interact with the trustees and the people like that. So I'll go to these events, and it's kind of a figurehead position, to be honest. But I go out into the community and do stuff like that, and I have my little badge and everything. But it's so cool. That meant a lot to me that they took the interest to choose me out of the whole university to be an ambassador, and it's only 6 of us. It's a really fun thing to do. So I really enjoy that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hopefully life's not too far off normal. Hopefully go back in the fall and nothing bad happens, and
we're planning
you can finish on out like a normal person and not have to deal with the craziness.
Yeah, we're planning on it.
Did you get to do any stuff with Averett Sports while you were there, or were you just hooked on racing?
I actually started, which, if Drew Wilson listens to this,
he probably will.
So awful I did my first announcing at a soccer game, and I don't know field sports like I do motorsports, but I was like, you know what, this is an opportunity to do this, and I was so all over the place. My life was just not together when I was doing that.
Were you doing PA or the broadcast?
The broadcast.
That's tough.
I took sports practicum. Yeah, I took sports practicum. But you know what, they got my feet wet, and that put me on a well enough platform to go do a live broadcast to I don't know how many people in Southern Virginia, so not too many months after that. And you know, that really created the foundation for me to be able to go out and do other things, even though it was a tough learning experience. It was tough, and learning what to say and, how to announce. And what I struggle with, I know Averett, I know their program over there, they like to focus on our team, they're playing in our facility, we need to focus on them. I was struggling with, announcing, like, I would talk about these people too much or something like that.
Yeah, they'd be like, bring it back over here, Homer.
But no, yeah, exactly. I know. I think Eddie told me that a few times. Eddie Glenn, he did a lot of stuff over there, and if Eddie listens to this, I hope he's doing well. But yeah, that was a great experience too. It really was. I love learning experiences. That's why I'm here, to learn. I don't think you can ever learn enough. Because learning is what allows you to go out and accomplish the things that you want to in life.
Oh yeah, I've told several people that have kind of gotten into this a little bit, and I'm like, man, it even comes down to learning how to breathe right, because you get so focused on what you're looking at, and you're trying to spell it out, and you're trying to word it out and make it sound nice, and you got to remember to breathe, and you also got to remember not to outrun things. And
I know.
And racing's tough with that too, because everything happens so fast. You have to just slow yourself down a little bit,
exactly,
or you sound like a crazy person.
I focus on telling the story. That's what I do. In my pit reporting lane, when I did PA, I actually called the races. I did play-by-play, but which was completely different. But even for both jobs, I always made sure I knew what was going on down there during the day. I don't like dead airtime is a big no-no in broadcasting. And I make sure I have my stuff in line so I don't go on some dead airtime. So,
have you had to deal with any attitude?
No.
Because usually down there, you get guys that they have a bad day, they hit the wall, somebody does them wrong, and here you come with a microphone. Here, give me something.
I will tell you this. This is a funny story. Well, not so funny for these two individuals, but anyway. Do you remember the debacle or the scuffle between Lee Pulliam and Philip Morris at South Boston? Did you hear about that?
Is that the one where Forrest Reynolds threw his radio and tried to pull the box, and he got banned from NASCAR for a year?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was my first race as a pit reporter on live air. Yeah. Yeah.
You picked a great one.
Sure was, definitely. And I remember saying to the guys in the booth under the commercial, I was like, what? Like, what is this? Like, because everybody was fighting. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I just interviewed Philip Morris when he got out the car. And literally right after our interview, all heck broke loose. And I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, because like you've seen NASCAR, and I've been in the NASCAR garage before. I had never seen anything like that. And they were like, yep, that's South Boston for you. But it wasn't at all. Our people are so nice to deal with. I love our drivers down there. They're great people to work with. That was just a rarity, I think, for the first time. And I know we have our scuffles down there, believe me, but that was big. And that was a shock as in your first race pit reporting, and you kind of know what to say and this and that and what to report. So, but I feel like I handled it well. So.
Oh yeah, because you're dealing with people that they're upset because they want to do good. They're not upset for some mundane reason. They're upset because they felt like they got done wrong.
Exactly,
and
and that's totally understandable. If I was paying that kind of money to drive those cars and fund those cars, and if I'm a sponsor who's sponsoring one of those cars, an owner, whoever associated with that team, I'm going to be mad if I get blatantly taken out on track. That's just that's not right. So I understand everyone's frustrations when it comes to racing and incidents like that.
Have you learned the trigger rule while you're on pit road doing interviews?
No, I haven't heard of that.
See, they taught me when I was
not heard of that.
When I started at Ace in 2010, there was a particular driver in a 4-cylinder class who if he was winning, it was great. He was a super nice guy, awesome. But if anybody bumped into him or the slightest little thing went wrong, he would just flip. And I learned real quick. My microphone at Ace had 2 switches. Had a power on switch and then like a mic on switch. And my boss taught me real quick, keep your thumb on that trigger so that if you hear the beginnings of a cuss word, you can cut him off real quick. And
now, I was careful with that because, of course, that's under the guidelines for
the FCC.
Radio.
Yeah.
So the FCC, exactly. That's what we have to do. And I was given the lowdown on that. I was like, my people told me, and the people I was working with, like, if somebody like before you interview anyone, you need to tell them, please do not curse on air. So I would always tell it, but that was kind of uncomfortable. So I just basically started putting trust in my drivers, to be honest with you. But if I thought the driver was heated up enough to say something like that, I would tell them before. But I haven't dealt with the situation to that extent yet, you know.
Yeah, I had a funny one. Did a car store race at Southern National, and Stephen Wallace, Rusty Wallace's son, had blown a motor, and I went back to interview him, and he was nice and casual and calm, and just dropped one out of thin air, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And Tony Stevens, who I'm sure you probably know from Pit Road TV,
I know Tony.
He got in my ear and was like, "That's great, you know, I'll bleep it out later." He doesn't have to work with the FCC like you do on radio.
Yeah, and Tony, if you're still listening, I would still love to work with you in the Pit Road TV too.
That's a good one to learn from.
Yeah, I've talked to Tony before. He actually, I sent him a funny tweet during our Grand National Tour event on NBC, and he was actually announcing that race, and I was like, dude, you have got to find me some help on social media, because we were blowing up. Like, that was a huge race for us. That was a huge event, even though it was on iRacing, even though it was on a digital platform. And anyway, he ended up saying my name on NBC Sports and was like, he needs some help. So I was like, okay. It was so funny.
Take what you
so
can
funny.
get.
Exactly. I know.
Have you gotten to go to any of the big tracks like Charlotte, Richmond, any of those?
I have been in the garage at Daytona before, just as a fan, not looking. You know, that was when I was, you know, in that area. I wasn't working in it yet, and I actually been in the IndyCar garage too, up in Detroit. I went up there. That's so cool. I love that. I just love being around. And NASCAR too. I love being in the garage with those people and just seeing everybody watching everybody do what they love to do. That's just so inspiring to see. And you know, and the Indy cars, it's a lot more visible because I mean, those cars are a lot more
maybe open.
You know, open exactly.
You can
and
see
when
his
they
head
had it, yeah, exactly.
When
they were when I went up there, it was 2017. They didn't have the windscreen device on the front of the vehicle, so you could see all down in there. And I got to go right up to the vehicles, you know, and look at them and look at the tires. And I remember I met Dr. Jerry Punch up there and told him that I wanted to be a reporter. He said to keep going for it. I would like to connect with him again to see, you know. But
that would be a great one to learn from.
Yeah, he's awesome. I wish he would come back into the sport so bad. When he and Alan Bestwick were on ESPN doing NASCAR and IndyCar, I thought they were amazing, which I love the announcers now too, but I think Alan Bestwick and Dr. Jerry Punch are just phenomenal. And I hate that they're not announcing or calling any form of motorsports now, you know?
Yeah, I felt that way about with Eli Gold, because he was one of the main voices I listened to as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then the other one that always got me was, I don't even know why, but Glenn Jarrett. Maybe it was just because he was from North Carolina, or it was just he had a very distinct voice. And Steve Post as well. Those are some of the guys. Lenny Baticki is a big one at Charlotte that I just love hearing his pit reporting. And also, I've heard him do the same shtick that you do. We did a race at Tri-County for Cars Tour, and it was a support division race, and I was actually Lenny's cameraman. And the young lady that finished second was highly upset that she didn't win. She disagreed with a ruling, and she was credited with second instead of winning. And I had the camera in her face. Lenny's got the mic, and Lenny, before he turns the mic on, is saying to her, "Calm down, act like you got some sense before I turn this microphone on." Yeah. He said it more eloquently than I did.
Right.
And that just made me think of you.
Yeah.
You're sitting there like, please, I want to hear your passion, but please don't cuss.
Exactly. I would be like, I would just keep it short and sweet, because I mean, I had to do what my bosses told me, you know. I was just like, no cursing, please. And then we'd hit, you know, I would hit it and get it, you know.
Yeah.
But I always like asking the tough questions. I mean, you know, I feel like that's what makes a good reporter. You know, you target the questions that people want to hear and listen to. You don't want to ask somebody something that no one cares about hearing, really. You know, that's another thing on how I base I try not to make them too tough, because I also want to have respect for the person that I'm interviewing. Yeah. But then at the same time, I want to get a good view for what has happened or what is happening or what's going on today for the people who are watching, you know?
Yeah, that's good. That's you know what? I don't even have to give you that advice because you're doing a lot better. There's so many guys out here that will ask a question and then answer the question for them, and I've been guilty of that as well. So I'm glad you at least have the process going in your mind of I need to ask something that's not too hard, but I don't need to lob them a softball. I need to get something out of it.
Yeah, and you know, that's just respect. Like, I'm friends with the people that I interview on every other week, or the people that I interact with social media. I'm friends with those people. I don't want to put them in jeopardy of saying something they shouldn't have said because of my question. Yeah. I take that into consideration every time I ask something, you know, but I still want to ask a juicy question, so to speak, you know.
Yeah.
Something with some grip on it.
In all of motorsports, since you're a wide-ranging fan, which I'm glad you are, in all of motorsports, name an event or two that are on the bucket list that you've got to hit, just something major that you've got to hit.
Definitely the Indianapolis 500. Yeah, for sure.
As we get skateboarded by.
As we're in a skate park, yeah. Just 1 second. I'll continue.
Indy would be amazing, though.
The Indianapolis 500. And I hope these skaters are watching because you just crashed our interview for sure. But anyway, definitely the Indianapolis 500 would be on my bucket list. And Dr. Franks actually told me, because her and Joe are avid IndyCar fans. And
really? I never knew that.
Oh, yeah.
I just knew Joe was a big Clemson fan.
Yeah, they love IndyCar, and they've actually gone to the last few Indianapolis 500s, and I think they're actually going this year, which is so cool. And I was like, and I told Dr. Franks, I was like, you know, I love IndyCar too. So you know what? Please take me with it. And she did. She said she would take me for sure. So I don't know where that will go, but I would love to go with her and Joe up there. It would be so cool.
Heck yeah.
You know, but I don't know. This year it's on August 23rd, which is during the semester, which I'm going to be traveling, hopefully, too, every weekend with an internship in Xfinity that I'm working on right now. So, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be crazy and fun to experience traveling so much.
I'm a little surprised you didn't go with a Formula One race. I figured you would have gone with one of those.
Well, I've actually been to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Canadian Grand Prix, and that was so closed off. Like, that was something different for me. I know we talked about this earlier about the differences between motorsports. I don't think just by watching it on TV, I don't think by watching it, I ever fully understood just how closed off it was. I mean, it was like so much you had to go through just to be able to get inside, like where the Formula One, to get in the grandstands even. I mean, it was a true act of Congress to get through there. But that's also the wealthiest motorsport in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, they raced 21 different races in 21 different countries. Of course, that's changed this year with the Corona pandemic. But I mean, that's top notch. And I actually know someone who wants to get into covering Formula One, and I would love to cover Formula One. I mean, I love it too. So.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Lewis Hamilton, he is dominant in that series. He and Mercedes as the train passes by.
Yeah, I'm about to say. The joys of doing an outdoor interview.
Exactly. I mean, he and Mercedes have just been so dominant since like 2014, I believe. That would be, to be a journalist in that and cover that, I mean, just epic performance over all these years, that would have to be a dream to cover a performance like that. I mean, the Mercedes F1 team's performance and Lewis Hamilton's performance over the past 6 years, that's going to go down in the history books for sure. And I expect that will come to an end very soon, but you never know. I mean, they won the Austrian Grand Prix on Sunday, so. And
if you watch the Formula One series that Netflix has done, I think you realize that if you think NASCAR is cutthroat, Formula One is way more cutthroat, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. I do like that series, and I think it gives a great in-depth view of what goes on behind the scenes. And yes, it is different from NASCAR and IndyCar and sports cars and stuff like that, but I mean, it shows you just how cutthroat motorsports is. I mean, it's not just people going out here and getting in a race car and driving fast. They get out, okay, let's go home. It's not that. It's a business. It's an organization, and money is heavily involved.
Yeah.
You know,
it's something. You see all that. We're fans of that, but then we still go to South Boston and enjoy the guys that are paying way more than they would ever get back, just out of pure love for the sport.
But you know, I wish, because I hear so many drivers say, and I don't know enough about what they go through to speak upon it, but they're basically, I can't tell you how many drivers I've heard saying, I can't reach where I want to be because I don't have the money to do so. I hate that it's like that, and apparently it is, because I mean, I'm in the garage and I hear it all the time, and I hear the drivers talk about it, and I mean, but it has to be a way, you know. I mean, everybody that makes it doesn't have money, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's always a way to accomplish your dreams. So I'm still kind of figuring that out and kind of trying to base an opinion to speak upon that accurately. So that's where I stand with that. But I mean, it's a money business for sure. I mean, that's no doubt about that.
Well, you're in the best position to learn working with those guys. So, before I let you go, how can people keep in contact with you or see what you're doing on social media?
Yeah, definitely. So you can add me on my personal account at Grayson Eaton on Instagram and at Grayson Eaton on Twitter, and then I have a Facebook too. Shoot me a friend request, and it's just Grayson Eaton on Facebook, and you'll go on there and see all my photos and stuff like that.
And of course, if you follow South Boston Speedway,
of course, if you follow,
anywhere there, we're seeing something you made.
Follow us at Sobo Speedway 57 on Twitter and Instagram. We'd love to have your follows, and I would too. And Facebook is just South Boston Speedway, and I post regularly on there, and I would love to have you guys join in with us.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully you guys will finally get to have a race at some point before the year turns over.
I hope so. We're planning on it. So.
And if you, as this is an open invitation, and I'm gonna put this on here, and I might even just highlight this.
All right.
If you ever have an itch to get off the asphalt, you are welcome. I live 15 minutes across the state line in Ruffin. You are welcome to ride with me to a dirt race. I'll let you announce with me, and I'll show you a whole different side. I will expose you to a whole different culture on dirt.
I would gladly take you up on that offer. I would love to, really.
All right, well,
love
Grayson,
to do that.
I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you for having me. Thanks. It was awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to yet another edition of the Half Price Concessions Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, Himalaya, Castro, whatever podcast app you're using. Please hit the subscribe button. If there's a section to leave us a rating and review, please leave us a good one. It would really help us out a ton. Also, if you're listening on our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button there. That way, you'll get notified every time we put out new episodes. Also, you can email the show. The email address is halfpricedconcessionspodcast@gmail.com. You can email us questions, concerns, ideas for future episodes, anything and everything. We'll definitely respond to it, and we just appreciate you listening. Also, if you have friends or family who want to listen but don't want to go to YouTube and don't have a podcast app, you can listen to every episode on our website. That's www.anchor.fm/HPC podcast. Thank you for listening. My name is Tyler Williams, and I hope that you have a great day.